Okay, we are tying the second half. This is a fly that I kind of created after looking at a few different flies. I really like the Game Changer by Blane Chocklett. However, if you've ever tied a Game Changer, you hate tying Game Changers. So the reason being why Game Changers are hard to tie is because they just take so long because there's so many different body sections. Now don't get me wrong, Game Changers are great. I fish them. I love fishing them. I mean, I don't think there's another fly out there that represents the movement of a fish as well as a Game Changer. With that being said, I don't like spending 45 minutes at the vise to tie one fly, just to have it get stuck in a tree or a stump or something like that. So this fly is really designed to somewhat mimic the Game Changer by swimming ability, and then just be way faster to tie. So we are starting with this is just a Orvis saltwater hook. It's a 1/0. You just want a large shank, you want a longer shank, because you're going to put a little bit more of a body on this fly. So you're going to take some white thread, move it back to the back, right about there to the bend of the hook. You can cut that off. Now we're going to put in the tail of the fly. Use bucktail. You don't need a lot of bucktail, just some. So probably half a pencil amount of bucktail. So once you have your bucktail, just like with the clouds or anything else that you're tying with bucktail, you want to get these little guard hairs out. Alright. Now the guard hairs are out. Just going to lay the bucktail down. Get some nice good wraps in there. Tighten down as you move forward on the fly, and your bucktail won't flare. Okay. You can just cut off this excess. Alright, cool. A few more tight wraps. This fly is going to have a little bit of flash. I'm using this chartreuse angel hair. If you don't have this, any Flashabou will work. You can use crystal flash, you could use silver Flashabou, whatever you have. I like this chartreuse because we're going to do a chartreuse on top. So, get a little clump of this. Again, any sort of flash that you have laying around will work. You don't need a lot. Alright, so cut off a good clump. I like to reverse tie this in. That's what I mean. Take the amount, cut it in half, put a loop, bring it back like that. So now you made a loop, and tie that in. Just give it a little bit more durability. Cool. I'm add a little bit more. Like I said, this stuff does go a long way. So you don't need a lot, but I want enough to make a difference. Cool. Alright. Now when you put a stiffer material underneath and then a more fluid material on top, it will give it a little bit better action. I'm using a chartreuse polar fiber. Don't need a ton of this stuff. I always make this analogy, but just grab enough to where it looks almost like the density of a pencil, the diameter of a pencil. This stuff also has guide hairs. It's synthetic. You can see there's little teeny tiny hairs falling down. Just pull that stuff out. Stuff will trap water and won't allow your material to sit down on the hook shank. Alright. So now you tie this in. Make sure everything's really snug. That's it. That's the tail of your fly. Cool. So as we've covered before, sparser flies tend to breathe better. Fuller flies look better on the vise. The sparser flies do swim better. Alright, now we're going to grab the Palmer chenille. It's just chartreuse. If you don't have chartreuse, use white. If you don't have that, EP sparkle brush, really any sort of like dubbing would work. You don't need a ton of this. I just think it makes it cool. Like almost like a gill flare, just a little hot spot for the fish to hone in on. Make sure you pull the fibers back so you don't trap them. Alright. That's probably good right there. Oops. Cool. Alright. Couple wraps. Make sure that's going back. Sweet. Alright, here's the key to this fly. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. If you do have this, definitely put this in. These little glass rattles. Like I said, if you have some, they're pretty killer. So go ahead and throw in a whip finish here. Or you can put a half hitch, whatever you want to do. Okay. Alright. You're going to turn the hook over. Clean up some of this excess. You're going to take your rattle, a little bit of epoxy. And then set your rattle in place. Hit it with your light. Cool. Awesome. So once that is in place, loose wrap, and then just tighten down. Okay, cool. Move forward, move back. Sweet. All right. Yeah, CK body fur. If you don't have this, Blane Chocklett makes a really cool product. It's just a brush, just a body brush. You want to put this stuff in there pretty thick. Makes a really dense head for you to tie stuff in at. Alright, you can tie this in close to the back where you put in that palmer chenille. Okay, so that's in there nice and tight. Put a little bit of this epoxy here for some added durability. Alright, and bring your thread forward. To there. Doing a quick whip finish or a half hitch. Alright. Now, I'm just going to wrap this CK baitfish brush forward. Again, be careful not to trap any of the fibers. And again, you do want to wrap this stuff pretty thick. Like one or two more. Cool. Alright, cinch that off. Cool. Alright, so it looks pretty ugly right now. Pushing that back a little bit. I'm also going to put a weed guard on this. The place I'm fishing isn't too kind to weeds, so I'm just pre-cutting that. I'm going to epoxy that in. I'm not going to tie it in. Alright, so now just tie some of this stuff back. Sweet. Whip finish it up. All right. And here's the key with this stuff. If you have a dubbing brush, that'll work. If you don't have a dubbing brush, because I can't seem to find mine right now. Just grab a hook and just pull out all these fibers. This stuff is pretty tight, so you just want to get all those loose fibers untrapped. If you have a comb laying around, you can use a comb. Okay, cool. So now it looks like a jumbled mess. We can all agree. Time to trim it up. So grab your scissors. Easiest way to do that, split it in half from the bottom down like that. and pinch it. Okay. So I pinched it and almost made a part on the hook shank. Take your scissors. We're just cutting a fish shape, tapering off towards the back. And same thing on the bottom. Taper it down to the hook shank. You can always come back in and cut more, but you can't cut less. So keep that in mind. Alright, cool. I'm going to take it out of the vise real quick. Just trim it up. Finish trimming it up. Here's another key. So you want this gill flare thing to show, the chartreuse you put in. It's on the back. Just come back in and trim off the back a little bit. I'll make a more defined head on your fly. Alright. Cool, cool, cool. So now that I have it trimmed up to my liking, I come in and cut the sides pretty flat. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna grab some highs. I'm just using eyes I have layering around. These are 8 and 1/2. These are 1/2. If you don't have these 1/2 eyes, use what you have. It's really not going to make that big of a deal. Cool. Also, here's our little pro tip. If you are tying a lot of flies and you're using epoxy, go on Amazon. And I know I always support local and all that good stuff, so don't get mad at me. Buy a pack of like 500 eyes off Amazon. They don't have to be really sticky if you're buying off Amazon, if you're using epoxy. I mean, this UV stuff is great. It's not super expensive if you're using a little bit of it at a time. Alright, weed guard goes on top. Pull it down towards the shank of your hook. Hit it with the light. Alright, weed guard is set. And they're nice and good. Put a little bit more on top. Cool beans, and then a little bit of epoxy on either side where the eyes are going to go. Alright, eye number 1, set in there. Eye number 2. Set nice and on there. Pinch it while you're hitting it with a light. That's it. Second half minnow. Thing is a killer. Has a rattle. Really catches fish, bass, stripers, trout, redfish, you name it. Stay smooth. Good luck.